Hola, mis criaturas. I want to tell you a story. This one is called Abuelita's Attic. Era una vez, many years ago now, there was a beautiful house surrounded by open fields and country air. It belonged to mi abuelita y abuelito, though the house never recovered after he passed. I think it got sick when he did. Something made its home where it wasn't supposed to, and festered and grew until eventually there was no going back. The day after Abuelito died, my cousin, Miguel, went to live with my grandma. She had been nervous about staying in the house by herself and said that something didn't feel right now that her partner of 53 years was gone. This was understandable to everyone, even to me, a child of 13 at that point. My grandparents had been together since they were teenagers. Of course, she would be uneasy. So Miguel moved into the attic. It was a large room, and the closet it came with stretched far back. He wanted his own space, and the attic felt like it could offer the privacy he desired. However, no one had stayed in the attic before. Even when my tias and tios were children being raised in that house, they all shared rooms downstairs. The attic was for storage, and no one thought to question this fact growing up. No one even asked to turn it into a room. It was as though the thought had never even occurred to them, which was why everyone was surprised when Miguel insisted on converting the attic into a bedroom. It happened slowly, from what I can remember. Months had passed with no incident. Abuelita said she enjoyed having Miguelito in the house with her, and Miguel enjoyed the space in the attic. It was an arrangement that worked well, until it didn't. I remember my mother being on the phone with her primo, Miguel's father. He was worried, saying Miguel suddenly was acting strange. He wasn't talking to anyone in the family. He wasn't even talking to Abuelita, wasn't taking care of her, of himself. He was just staying in his room all day, up in the attic. My mother took me with her when she talked to Miguel. Abuelita was making comida in the kitchen, and I was supposed... And I was supposed to sit with her while my mother went upstairs. Of course, I crawled up after her as soon as I could get away from my grandmother's gaze. I waited by the crack in the door. Miguel looked different. His clothes hung loose off his body, todo arrugado, and his hair hung in uncombed greñas. But his eyes were oddly clear. And his smile was wide, flashing his teeth from cheek to cheek. I remember thinking he looked happy, happier than I had remembered seeing him in a long time. But my mother looked concerned. She wore the worry on her brow, and I noticed that she did not stand close to him. She asked Miguel what was going on, asked why he wasn't talking to anyone, if he needed help taking care of Abuelita, or if there was something else. going on. But Miguel just kept smiling at her and told her he had never felt better, that this house was the best thing that could have happened to him, that he wanted to stay here forever. I didn't know why, but my mother packed a bag for her mother and brought her home with us that day. Abuelita wanted to stay with Miguel, but Mama was firm. That night, Mama woke up screaming. She had a nightmare. She wouldn't say what, but she kept yelling, "Don't go, Miguel! Don't go!" The next day, Miguel was gone. The only thing he left was a note on the attic floor saying, "Don't worry about me." My abuelita cried. So did my mother. So did the rest of the family. La policía said there was nothing to be done because he had left a note. And sometimes people disappear because they don't want to be found. We held a funeral anyway. After that, Abuelita was moved into our house permanently. Y la casita, surrounded by open fields and country air, sat abandoned. Abandoned until the day my abuelita passed away.